All right, hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I am so glad that you were able to join me today. We are kicking off a new Velocity webinar series. This is going to be a 5-part series happening monthly, and we are kicking it off today with control drivers. So I'm Erica Carroll, the Training and Education Manager here at Atlona, and jump in. So first I want to talk a little bit about Velocity for anybody who doesn't know what Velocity is. In traditional programming, traditional control programming specifically, you would have a single processor that lives in one room to only control those devices in that room. So what we have is a control processor that actually lives on your network. Now what you see here is the VGW250, and this hardware appliance can control up to 250 devices. So that could be way more than a room, definitely maybe a floor, or even a building, depending on the size of your building. And if you need to control more devices than that, we also have software licenses available, again in the 250, up to 2,500 devices, or up to 5,000 devices. So at that point, we're talking more than just a building, maybe a campus, and you're limited by your IT backbone. That network infrastructure is exactly how we're going to control all of these devices. So we'll look at this image here. Again, because it's on the network, in our case, what we're doing is actually logging directly into the control processor box. So no matter where I am on campus, I'm able to log into the box, and then I can look at all of the different rooms, floors, buildings that are available for me to either program, control, troubleshoot, anything like that. So you might be asking, what if I have devices that are not IP controllable? And for that, we have our VCC device, and this is called a Velocity Control Converter. Now this does all the translation for us, right? So it will translate from IP to RS-232 or to IR, or even IP to a contact closure, relay, or trigger. So what we're doing here today is I actually have a VCC already in my system. It's plugged in. My switch has assigned it an IP address, so we'll be seeing what that does later, but this is that device that does that translation for us. And now I'm going to jump into Velocity. Before I do that, before I jump straight into Velocity, I want to show you, this is the Atlona website. You can go to atlona.com, and all I've done is search for the soft gateway. This is the software version of Velocity that you can purchase for up to, again, 5,000 IP connections. But what I want to point out here is in this bullet point here, there's a link to third-party AV devices. And when you click that link, you can see a full list of our control drivers that are already loaded into Velocity. Now this is updated when firmware is updated. So if you have a question or need to know if something is available, let's see, for instance, we can go in here to sources, just something simple, Blu-ray players. You'll notice we have a ton of manufacturers already loaded in here, and different models of each of those manufacturers. So this is a great resource that's available on the Atlona website if you ever need to check and see if those Velocity drivers are already built into the box. Okay, so now we can jump into Velocity. Now, when you log in, this is the dashboard that greets you. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is down here, I can go straight into my customized equipment if I needed to do that. This is the clickable link. Obviously, it's not 5 because I have been modifying it a little bit, but those customized equipment basically means either it's a copied and edited driver, or it's a completely new driver that I've created from scratch. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So we have our equipment list over here. I've clicked my menu button, and then I click equipment. And this gives me that full list of drivers. And this database is what populates this database over in when I want to add technology into my room. So the first thing I want to do is probably edit some commands. So let's say I have a device that is similar to something that already exists in here. The first thing I can do is search down here at the bottom. I'm going to go with this Epson projector version 2 that has TCP and RS-232 control, and I can choose to edit it. Now, when you edit an existing driver, you're not able to edit the details within it, but you are able to go over here into the commands and you can edit these commands. Okay, so if you have something that's similar and you need to create a new driver based off of this driver, let's go back to our list. I'll go ahead and go to Epson again. So in this case, I'm actually going to copy that driver first, and now I have this copy. I can now go in and edit it completely. Maybe I know the exact model number of it, so I'm able to type in, you know, I'm just making this up, some specific model number that needs some specific command. And all of these sections will automatically be filled out. So first I want to go in here to my connections. If I want to add a different type of control type, you'll notice down here I have my TCP IP settings, I have my RS-232 settings. If I wanted to add, let's say, IR or Telnet, I can absolutely do that. In here, I can go and specify my video in, what kind of inputs does this projector have. If I wanted to add more video inputs, again, newer model, maybe a more specific model, I can specify what those are. Let's say I have another computer input. As soon as I check mark that, it will be added to this list up here. Now, same thing with video out. I can actually type this in. I can specify that it has a video output. Now, this is a projector, so maybe it's a pass-through for daisy chaining or something like that. But you can specify that it has video outputs, and then you can type, let's say, HDMI, and you could save those changes. Now, same thing for the audio in. As we select these audio inputs, they would be added to this audio inputs section. Also the same for audio out, where I would need to type in what that audio output is. Again, this isn't necessarily a controlled device. It would just be a name or a label that I'd be able to reference. Over here, I have images. So these are thumbnail images that are used within the room. So when we build out our room, you can see individual images of those devices. So if you have updated images, you can upload those for the thumbnail or for the image itself. And then finally, we've made it over to commands. And I can specify here, let's see, down here we have power off, power on. If I needed to change any of these, maybe the command syntax has changed in some way. Maybe it's an increment decrement instead of a specific button press of that key up or key down. This will also do the translating for me between ASCII and hex, depending on how you need to send your command protocol. We'll go back to ASCII. Now these are specifically for RS-232, and I know that because up here I have RS-232 selected, or I can go to TCP. So that is editing a driver. So now, let's say that I want to create my own driver from scratch. Now, again, I'm going to use the Epson projector as an example because it has an easy command protocol and it's easy to find online. So I'm going to go ahead and say add equipment and say add via form. You also have the option of requesting a driver if you need Atlona to build something that's a little bit more advanced, but we do need a lead time on that, usually about 3 weeks, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the complexity. But definitely keep that in mind. So if you need something more complex built, Atlona can do that for you. Or if you have something that just needs power on, power off, maybe volume commands, you can absolutely do that yourself. Maybe there's a combination of both in there too, where you want to do it yourself to get yourself started and have Atlona build the full driver later on. Okay, so to build a completely new driver, I'm going to say this is an Epson projector. There we go. And I want to specify the manufacturer because, again, when I'm searching for it within that equipment catalog, I want to make sure that it's well categorized. So let's go to Epson. You can change the name long to Epson Manufacturing Inc. I don't know what their official name is, but it could be something like that. You could specify the exact model. So I'm going to call this actually, I'm going to call it model new. If there's other supported models that fall within that range, and the category. So the category for this is a projector. So I want to make sure that it is a projector. This toggle is on, or it's a source. So this determines, again, how it's categorized and how we'll actually use that driver once it's in the room. You can set up details for this if you'd like also, and I'm going to go ahead and save those changes. Oh, here we go. Here's our new model Epson projector. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that. And now we can go into our video connections and our audio connections. So first I want to specify that this is RS-232, again, because it's easy to find these command protocols online. You can specify the baud rate, parity, data bit, and stop bits. Again, every time you add one of these, the parameters for that will populate here. I can specify that I want this particular device to show on a trigger control page, on presets, or on the audio control page for projector. That's not necessary. So we'll just go straight into video in, and we'll say that it is digital. We'll give it a couple of inputs, digital and digital 1. You'll notice those are populating here. I have my video output. There's no video output on a projector. I can specify, again, audio, in and out, images. Again, if I had an image, I could absolutely upload that here. And now when I go to commands, I don't have any commands listed. So my first command here is power on. So now I'm going to go over to, this is a command protocol document from Epson. And I'm going to use this power on command. Now up here, I've learned that this is a colon from the projector. The command is actually whatever the command is. In our case, it's power, PWR. This is not a query, so there's no question mark. And we need a carriage return. So our power on is PWR space ON. This is our power on command, and I want to terminate it with a carriage return. And now I can save those changes. And I'm going to go ahead and do power off also. Yep. So let's edit. Commands. This is power off, so it would be PWR space OFF, and terminate it with a carriage return. And I'll go ahead and save those changes. Okay, so now I have this Epson projector, and I am going to make sure that this device is now added to my list. So we'll go into, let's say, Cafe USA in our photo space. And I want to add technology. Now again, this is that same database that was populating before, except for now our database is updated only on our gateway. We have Epson. We should have one. Let's see, we'll go first into projectors. Epson. So this is our copied one that we created earlier. And this is our new one that we just created, that Epson projector model new. And I can now add that into my room and make connections as necessary. Maybe I want to connect that to my switcher. I should be able to see my outputs here. So I have my inputs going from, let's say 510W. So now I have this as part of my room. So now when I go to control my room, the Epson projector will be a device. So we'll say room on, and now we have, oh, it reset. So we have our displays, we have our Sony, and we have our Epson projector. So now I can use that as a device for switching. Okay. All right, so we've learned how to copy and edit a driver. We've learned how to create a brand new driver. And now I want to show you how to learn IR codes if you need to learn IR codes. So the first thing you need to do is have this VCC device already plugged into your system. Again, it needs to have an IP address and it needs to be assigned to a room. So what I did is run a network scan. So I have these devices that are networked and unassigned. It's not been assigned to a room. So I'm going to assign this VCC device, and I say I want to use it in IR mode, and I want to add that VCC to my room. Okay, so now once that VCC device has been added into my room, I'm going to go back into my equipment, and I can edit this driver that I created. I'll go back into commands, and now I want to specify there's a video remote. Oh, you know what? I need to specify first that it can do IR, and now commands, IR. And now I can specify what my learn device is. So for the sake of time, I've actually already recorded this process for you. So I am going to share that video, and we're going to talk through it as it's going. There we go. All right. So okay, it looks like I was muted, and I apologize. So all that's been done here is we've pointed a remote control to the IR learning sensor that's on this VCC device to learn that IR code. And now I can add a button into that remote, and I can build that remote out as customizable as I want. So this is saying that I want to create a button that says power on. I can translate it again between hex and ASCII. I can use text only if I'd like, and I can change the color of that text. I can change the icon or the button. So in this case, let's go ahead and pick a icon. We're going to choose power on. And then we can change the button color. You'll notice that button is created there off to the right. Maybe I want to change this button to be a green button instead of a gray button. So we'll go ahead and select green. I can also change the icon color. Now I do like the green that is selected, so we'll go ahead and keep that green. I can make the button clickable or not clickable. I can make it visible or hidden, depending how I want to use that button. I can also make this a custom image if I'd like. Now right now it's set to a round button, you'll notice, but if I deactivate that, then it becomes a square button, and I can upload my own image there on the bottom, or I can keep the button as is. So I'll go ahead and save those changes, and you'll notice that I have this remote that has populated, and there we have a power on remote. So now when we save those changes and we go back to the room, let's go ahead and save, there we go. And now I can launch a control screen for this device. Now you'll notice my new device hasn't been added yet. So I'm going to go into this switcher, this SW5000. I'm going to make this new Blu-ray player that I just created. I want to toggle that button to show to make sure I can show that button. And I've called the button new. So now when I go back, I have this new button. And when I click it, I have my new remote there. My main screen here for, there we go. All right, so now that's about it. That's what I had planned for you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the questions. Let's see. Some say it was too fast. Was it the information was too fast? Is it something that you want to go back and review? And then we have no hay sonido. Yeah, there's no sound. Hopefully you can hear me now. It shows that the volume is bouncing now. Okay, so if you have any further questions, please feel free to type those into the questions box as we wrap up today. So again, just to review what we have learned, we learned how to copy and edit an existing driver. We learned how to create a brand new driver, and we learned how to learn IR codes to create a driver and a remote control for that control panel. So let's see some of these questions here. What's the parameter use? What is the parameter use for in the command line of the driver? So if I go over here and I specify this was the parameter was the second piece of that, right? So the command and then the parameter. This makes up the entire command. So in our case, we used power was the command, space, and then the parameter, which was on or off. So that's all just part of the string. There's a question, model of the Atlona. I'm not sure the question there. We've talked about a few different devices. We've talked about our VGW, which is the gateway control processor. We've talked about the VCC, which is a velocity control converter, which is this guy. And then a couple of the devices that I used in the presentation itself were switchers. So we used an SW510W and an SW5000ED. Can the room be virtual room and play on any screen in the building? Let me see, from a control room. So if you wanted to play any video on any screen in the building, that's a completely separate technology. So that would probably be AV over IP, where you want to be able to route any source to any display over a network. That is not done through Velocity. Velocity is only done for control. However, we can set up for the control of those OmniStream devices to do that. Your audio video has been buffering quite a bit. I apologize. I don't know how I can make that better at this point, but there is a recording of this, so hopefully that will be better if you need to review it. Can you get status from devices? So you won't be able to directly see status from devices, but let's see if I can show you. We do have logs on all of the devices. So if there's a device that is on, let's say, sorry, moving Windows out of the way, not equipment, sorry. If I go back into my sites, so if there's a particular device that you need information on to make sure that it is communicating, when you go into that room, you have this log icon here. So let's go into the VCC device is connected, so I can view the log of that. And if I wanted to download the full log, I could. But let's say, for instance, I want the VCC device to start talking to me. Let's say room on. That VCC device is not connected to anything currently, so how am I going to do that? Anyways, you can view logs here. You can also view the logs of the entire system by going over here and saying view logs. And these will be all all of the devices and any communication that is running through the gateway at any moment. Okay. Does the Velocity IP processor need to be on different VLANs from the equipment, or it needs to be on the same VLAN because it needs to be able to communicate with all of the devices on the network? Is Atlona only one room at a time? No, Atlona is not for one room at a time. So if I go here to Velocity in my dashboard, I can actually look at, you can see, I'll go to my site, and then within my site, I actually have multiple buildings. So I can jump into any of these buildings. Let's say for the Velocity updates, I can view all of my rooms here, and I can edit the room technology, and I can go into the control panel of any of these. So it's actually an entire site-wide, not just one room at a time. So this is an OmniStream setup with a video wall, and I can launch the control for this room too if I wanted to. Okay. So that's about it. I don't have any more questions here. So I appreciate your time with me today. Again, if you have any further questions, you can always reach me at training@atlona.com. And I do want to point out that we have full Velocity training available online in our Atlona Academy e-learning portal. So as we exit out today, hold on, maybe not, we have a couple more questions. How can I limit a user from single room or a group of rooms? So by a single user, you mean allowing somebody back-end access to Velocity, not necessarily just the control panel. So to do that, you would create custom roles, and you can specify exactly what permissions they have within Velocity through a toggle. There's over 70 toggles that you can turn on and off to specify those permissions. Okay, so now, again, as I was saying, in Atlona Academy, there is plenty of learning to be done within the Velocity section. It's a full-blown course. So I'd like to launch one more poll for you. If you want access to Atlona Academy, please let me know now and I'll go ahead and set you up with access. And if you already have access, please let me know that too. Or if you don't need access, you can say no thank you. So I appreciate, again, all of you and your time, and I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. Thanks.